Thank you, everyone. I'm really, a little bit shocked, but at the same time, really happy to see so many other Catholic fundraisers because just a little bit of background about myself. So I know some of you went to my talk earlier, but I didn't start as a fundraiser. Most people I finding we just happened to enter this, and when I told people I wanted to be specific with Catholic fundraising, I didn't think there were other people that were thinking like me, but I'm really blessed to know that there are other people that are thinking like me, that are dedicated to the Catholic Church and recognize that there's plenty of opportunity and work to be done inside the Church because we see all the benefits and the potential. So what I want to talk to you today is about 21st century Catholic fundraising. I'm going to talk a little bit about me. I'm going to talk about me again tomorrow. I talk about myself in the morning, but if you don't talk about yourself, nobody knows about you. And that's one of the biggest problems I find with Catholics is that they don't like to talk about themselves. And usually they say it's out of humility. And humility comes from the word, I'm probably going to mess up the translation a bit, but it comes from hummus, which means from the ground. And so you just have to you understand that humility means we are coming from the ground. That means we're mortal, but we're not just that, we're here because of Jesus Christ. So I'm a big believer in what I'm doing is this. Strangely enough, I asked that weird question, God, what do you want me to do with my life? And He wants me to do this. So I love talking about myself because this is what God wants me to do. And if I don't tell you what I do, you will never know what I do, and I can never help you. So I really hope that you talk more about yourselves, but in the context of not the secular world of, okay, everyone's just completely overwhelmed with who they are and what they're doing, but recognizing it. We talk a lot about mission, but recognizing why you're doing it for the Catholic Church, how you're succeeding in doing it, and just keep pressing on and share your story. And that's another problem. We're not sharing our stories. We're not sharing our stories. We're not sharing who we are. And we're running around and we're questioning why isn't anybody donating to us? When nobody's donating is because they don't know who you are and they don't trust you and you don't ask. And when you do ask, they don't trust you and they don't like you. So, about me, a little bit more. I'm going to talk about changing how you ask, communicate better with technology. I'm a huge fan of technology. A huge fan because it's free. Everything's free now. It's unbelievable. So I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk a little bit about communicating better and personalizing your message. I'm a really big believer in just because you can send a letter to a few thousand people or you can click send to an email to 100,000 people, you are still communicating with one person at a time. It's just we live in an age where I think I have a horrible memory when I'm on stage, but Saint Bernard of Clairvaux was a prolific writer, and he was a monk. Which religious order was he? What? He's Cistercian, so enclosed. And the guy was writing and communicating constantly. Also, Saint Francis de Sales, huge writer. And the way he was converting people is one person at a time. So I'm a big believer in that, and then we'll do Q&A. So a bit about me, and I'm really delighted because some of the people who I started my fundraising with are here today. Like Roisin over there. Did you start before me or after me? Around the same time. And then there's Matthew. Where's Matthew? There he is. He's very shy, and I'm surprised. But this guy, he's one of my mentors because he's so calm, and I had to learn how to be calm when I entered fundraising. So I'm American. I started fundraising at the Diocese of Westminster. So because I wanted to learn what it's like working for the church, and it was a good experience. So I did that, and then I left because the cardinal was never going to be. If the cardinal needs money, he just needs to do a campaign. If a bishop needs money, he just needs to do a campaign. If a priest needs to do money, he can do a campaign. But what I was really finding interesting was like all the little Catholic charities like the nuns, the monks, the lay people, everyone that doing something on the side or wanted to do something full time, but they didn't have a network, they didn't have a bishop, they didn't have a religious order. Those people were really fascinating me, so that's why I started this website called CatholicFundraiser.net. And literally, when I launched it, like nobody went to it, and I was a bit upset, to be honest. I'm like, come on, this was amazing. This is going to change and transform everybody. So nobody visited, but a year and a half later, I get about 10,000 hits per month, and I help about 30 charities a month as well, personally, on how to fundraise. So I'm really passionate. My passion is to help 1 million Catholics with their fundraising, and the only way I'm going to do that is use social media. And I've been quoted with a few people as well, but I'll talk about that later. I love the Catechism. Who has a copy of the Catechism? Raise a hand. Keep your hand up if you've read your Catechism in the past 6 months, the past 3 months, the past 1 month. Okay, that's not too bad. The Catechism is great. And the Catechism tells you specifically how to ask somebody for something. It's right there. And I know we're talking a lot about studies and what the social scientists are telling us what's the best way to ask people for money, but the Catechism, it's all there. So, big believer in the Catechism. And the quote that I just want to start with is this one. Within modern society, the communications media play a major role in information, cultural promotion, and formation. This role is increasing as a result of technological progress and the influence exercised on public opinion. We can all agree with that the internet, social media, the media has a huge impact. Society has a right to information based on truth, freedom, justice, and solidarity. Even Sister... Okay, that's just... I thought that was like some music. That's just Italian police. But even Sister Georgette mentioned about the use of social media and getting your story out there. So we talk a lot about the new evangelization going out, and we talk about Paul VI. He was huge in social communications. And this guy was talking back in the 1970s. So obviously he was talking about radio and television, but he was a prophet. I really believe that he saw what was happening, and he uses very strong words. He's so passionate about using social communication that he even says, if we do not take this stuff seriously, it will be I think he uses the words disgrace to Jesus Christ himself. And so he says we have to take this seriously. And some are doing it, like for example, at least in the United States, what happened with EWTN is just unbelievable. But like now in the 21st century, anyone can have their own EWTN. EWTN, if you live outside the United States, it's the Eternal Word Television Network, and it's pretty much the number 1 TV station in the United States for Catholic news, radio, story, everything. They dominate. And it's a beautiful story how it was built, but today in 21st century, anyone can have their own channel, and it's free. It's called YouTube. It's called Facebook. This stuff is free. And I know you're not going to have 1,000 hits, 10,000 hits, 100,000 hits. It doesn't matter. I'm a big believer in St. Paul when he says, I planted, Apollos watered, and God grew. If you don't plant and if you don't water, and I know I'm speaking loud again, God can't grow anything. So I'm a big believer. Social media, there's a whole bunch of bad stuff. I know, and I'm always hearing like all the bad things that everybody's doing. And I tend to be pessimistic as well. But we really have to focus on the positive that we can do. Like my first YouTube video got 2 hits. It was humbling, but I'm like, what? That's more than I had before. Now I've got one that's like got 800. And I know that's tiny, but you know what? I had 0 to start with. And I'm really pressing all Catholics to take social media seriously. So the old way is ask them while they're sitting in the pews and send them a letter. Very passive. You know, I'm a positive person, but you know, when we talk about the new evangelization, we talk about revitalizing the Catholic Church. Why is it that at Lent and at Advent, when those are the times where Catholics start coming back, all the lapsed Catholics, the things that they're hearing is about the appeal? It really stresses me. Instead of hearing a beautiful homily about the readings, they hear about the appeal for the church that they don't even attend for 50 weeks. So it's turning them off and people aren't donating. We already see it. I'm usually the youngest Catholic in the pew. Catholics aren't donating, and we are wondering always the question, well, they're not generous, or they're not as generous as Protestants. Catholics want to give, it's just we have to communicate to them in a different way. And they're listening, but like it's been mentioned a few times, they're going to your website before they donate. They're checking you out and figuring out, okay, what are they doing? So they're making their decisions not based on what they hear from a homily about how great they are or how great the things that you're doing. What they really want to do is be inspired by Jesus Christ, by the gospel, and they want a transformation in their life. Mary mentioned that as well. There you are. You need to give them the gospel. That's step one. And so the old way, and you know, it worked for a while. I can't disagree with that. But for a long time, for 30, 40 years, when you had Catholics sitting down and they couldn't run away, you could talk to them and you could say, if the priest says donate, they donate. Well, my generation, if a priest says donate, I'm like, well, I'll think about it. And I have no qualms about it because I'm thinking like, okay, who is this guy? What's he doing? How's he impact? Because I know plenty of other religious people that are doing fantastic work. And the way the mentality is and Richard talked about it as well with bequests. You have to make a decision collectively with people. So, and the reason they do that is they want to know, is my money going to the right place? They want to see value. So the old way was just let them sit down, tell them to donate, pass the basket around, and they'll give, and then you come back in 6 months' time during Lent, or you go 6 months' time to Advent. The new way, and I'm a big believer in engaging via the internet, connect with a larger audience, focus on building deeper relationships. Catholics are having a difficult time. It's not just Catholics, it's everybody. They're having a difficult time understanding that there are people behind social profiles. There are people behind views. There are people behind likes. So, and if you missed the discussion earlier where I showed a graph that showed that actually people 50 and above spend more time on the internet than young people. Because most the older generations are saying, oh, young people, they don't know how to build relationships. They're always on their mobiles. They're not plugged in. They're plugged in. They know what's going on. They have Google. They have Wikipedia. They research. They're not dependent on just one news source. They know exactly what's going on. And these are real people. My strong recommendation is to understand that social media, the internet, like I know, for example, the Diocese of Westminster, your website gets over 100,000 hits per month. 100,000 people are going to that website every month. And I'm not trying to be mean. That's amazing. One, that's a huge opportunity. And we're always thinking like, people aren't coming to church, people aren't coming to Mass, people aren't talking to me. They're going to your websites. And the second they see a bad website, they're not going to go back. But for example, the Diocese of Westminster gets 100,000. The Diocese of New York gets, I think, equivalent about 90,000. St. Louis, which is actually, I really want to speak to them because they're doing fantastic work. They get about 250,000 people on their website. And you look at it and you're like, wow, I know why people are coming back. It's incredible because they display Mass times very clearly. That's what people want. They want Mass times and they want to know where a church is. And it's unbelievable. And they have a section, are you a lapsed Catholic? Do you want to know about the Catholic faith? Or do you want to know where to go to Mass? And so they're plugged in about why people are going to their website. People are going to websites. And if you look at their social media profiles, again, I would love to speak to a bishop. Like, there's only a few on Twitter. That's where people are. I'm not saying that you forget about the basics that the Catholic Church runs off of, and that's the Mass. But to go out and reach people, you've got to go into these different mediums. Because if you're not there, they're not going to donate. In order to get people to donate, they have to trust you, trust, attention. Attention, everybody is on the internet. So that's the new way. And it's free. I still can't get my head around it. It's free. Like in the previous presentation I did, I was viewed for 46 hours for the past 28 days. 46 hours. I've had 200, and I'm tiny. I have 262 people viewed my stuff for 4 minutes on average, which equates to 46 hours. Like, if you want to be known and you want to be heard, just make a YouTube channel. Just post on Facebook. But we're using Facebook and YouTube too often to just, please donate. It's called social media. You socialize. There are people behind it. If they don't know what your story is and how you're impacting the world and how you're bringing Christ to the world, they're not going to donate. They're not going to donate. There's just tremendous potential to tell your story via these mediums. And it's free. 20, 30 years ago, you needed to buy an antenna, you needed to set up, you needed a building, you needed a whole bunch of equipment. All you need now, you need a smartphone with an internet connection. And you don't even need a cellular connection. You just Wi-Fi hotspots are everywhere. So, communicate for free. The written word, I really like email. I like email. But that doesn't mean I don't like letters. But emails are really good. Emails, texting, social media, direct messaging. There are all these different ways that you can communicate. And I'm not saying that you have to flood people with things and just communicate. Just pick one or two things to do. Audio. Like we mentioned, Mary mentioned calling people up. Oh my gosh, I've had the same experience. When I call people up, it just changes the entire relationship. I don't know what it is with the phone. Like, we think it's archaic and we have these smartphones that cost $1,000, but the thing that we've been using it for the past 100 years is still more effective. Call people up. It's unbelievable. Audio podcasts. There are actually a few audio podcasts in the United States, and it's mostly about theology and just Catholic life, but nobody's talking about, not that I know of, about, how we're moving forward with pro-life, or how we're moving with mission life, or how we're moving with marriage. Your specific topic can be a podcast. And I guarantee you, within a year, 2 years, it'll take off. And it's free. Video, YouTube, private videos. Again, Mary was mentioning that she sends people videos. It's free. I know I'm on stage, I keep saying it's free because I get a lot of people telling me, well, I need money to do my organization. I need money to do my charity. No, you don't. It's all free. Do you have an iPhone? Do you have an Android? Do you have something? Do you have a computer? Yes. Then go. So the mediums are now free. You just have to get people's attention. That's where it's at. That's where the hard work is. Getting people's attention is where the hard work is. If you get their attention, you're 80-90% of the way there. So, personalize your message. This is actually what I told a monastic community 2 weeks ago. I was helping them with their end-of-year campaign. And so I try and get people to just, write it in your own words, and I'll kind of retweak it, or I'll tell you how best to improve it, because I want them to learn. I don't want to write the letter for them. So these are the 4 things that I told them to do. They're much more excited about the letter. In a week's time, we'll see how it does. But it's be personal. Sometimes when you write, your mailing list is 10,000 people, and you write, "Dear friends." Well, that person is only receiving it from you. write dear friend. One person. If you can write their name, great. But, dear, if you want to write supporter or just dear friend, personalize it. We talked about, like Mary, again, fantastic presentation. I should be commenting on Richard more. I'm going to make him feel bad. But like using the word you, like if you keep saying I, like Adrian mentioned as well, talk about them, how they're, so focus on that person and why is it important to the reader? Why should they read your appeal letter? So my question to this monastic community was, why should this person, even before donating, why should they go from top to bottom? And it really helped. And be authentic to your mission. Sometimes when we can focus on an appeal letter, we're just so focused on, man, I got to make it the way to the appeal or the ask. And all of a sudden we forget everything that we write for the first 3 or 4 paragraphs. Like, write what your mission is doing. Don't try and like fluff it up and copy. I've seen it. They copy and paste from other charities' letters. I'm like, write your own. Write your own. And be warm. Like, just be you. Like, if it's very difficult, write a super quick draft in 10 minutes, put it in a drawer, come back the next day. Review it, add a little bit more, come back, until you have a fantastic letter. But you got to personalize it. And be not afraid. For the longest time, I was like super afraid. When I got into fundraising, I was scared. I was giving up a whole lot of stuff. I've been so blessed, but my life was spent on it. It's still, we're all scared of things, but we can't be afraid. Jesus says we can't be afraid. John Paul II said we can't be afraid. Benedict, everyone's telling you don't be afraid. So don't be scared of failing. Like just, don't be afraid that your video is going to be bad, that nobody's going to respond to your letter. Just, okay, nobody responded. Figure out why they didn't respond. And then move on. Fear of change. I mean, we live in the 21st century. I mean, we have to change. It's not like too often we're talking about changing doctrine. I'm like, my mind is aching. Like I'm 36 years old now, and the amount of like I'm like it's clear in stone what the church has been teaching for 2,000 years, and we keep trying to change that. But we're not changing how we communicate it to people. I'm not saying everybody's like this, but I'm like, it's a serious mental headache for me. I'm like, why are we changing the things that don't need changing? Why don't we change the way we communicate? So just change. If nobody's listening to you, figure out maybe I need to communicate differently. Fear of imperfection. I get this a lot. People are like, well, it's got to be right. I got to have the video. I got to have my website perfectly done. I got to have the appeal. I got to have the colors. I got to get it approved by the board. And I got to get the advisories. I got to get everybody. Like the whole process, my goodness, just do it. Just do it. Don't ask for permission. Ask for forgiveness. After like if say, well, nobody approved that. I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry that I forgot you in this. Fear of criticism. If you're not criticized, nobody knows what you're doing. This one for me a novelty about 2 years ago when I started doing this. I'm like, well, what if somebody tells me like I don't really have any credentials as a fundraiser. I really don't, apart from being a Catholic. So I was like, I'm going to be criticized. I'm like, that's a good thing. Because I like it. Because when I'm doing something wrong, a fundraiser will tell me, I'm like, thank you so much. That's a great idea. I'm going to use that now. So fear of rejection. There's a great book that I forgot the title of. But I'll get it to you later. It's a fantastic book. Horrible. It's something... Yeah, I'll get... My apologies. The worst cliffhanger in the world. But I'll get it. It's fantastic. And fear of success. We're actually scared that what you're going to do is going to be great and that you're going to change lives. I've seen it. I've seen people in front of me that have, like, I see their eyes light up and see all the potential, and then they stop because they're like, it can actually work. So don't be afraid. Just go out and do it. With that, I'm sure you have questions and I might have some answers. If no questions, that's great. Oh, Steve, come on. He's the guy who heckles me every week.
It's interesting, and it's been a theme throughout the day. There's been a massive concentration on Catholics, fundraising from Catholics, and yet 80% of my fundraising has come from non-Catholic sources. So
Is that with trusts and grants?
Trust grants, individuals, Quaker foundations. It's all been about how you discuss and how you frame and reference the difference you're making. And I think that Catholic population in the UK is about 10%. So if you're concentrating your Catholic fundraising on Catholics in the UK, you've got a 10% market, as opposed to going, we do lots of really, really good things, we can change lives, and you've opened it to 100% of the fundraising market. So I think sometimes there needs to be a slight change of focus, that as fundraisers our role is to support what we do, and Catholics are part of that fundraising solution, not the be-all and end-all to Catholic fundraising.
It depends. Like, you know, if you are a religious order, or if you're a Catholic hospital, you can't do abortions. It's just, I mean, and people might say, I want to support you, you do great work, however, you know, I want you to do this. Like, the mission always comes. For me, the reason I'm so big on Catholic fundraising, and if a non-Catholic wants to donate to me, fantastic. But I'm Catholic because Jesus Christ is first, and I'm following Him, and my mission, maybe I don't know how to communicate this, but that's first and foremost. And in order to communicate my story, I gotta use the word Catholic. I have to use the word Catholic. I have to.
But I'm saying that, why didn't you know? I'm from the Catholic Archdiocese of Birmingham. So it's implicit in what I say, in everything, you know. Head of Development, Catholic Archdiocese of Birmingham. So it's implicit in all of my work, and yet 80% is from non.
Well, that's good. Well, that's great. So we can all learn that being Catholic doesn't deter non-Catholics donating to you, which I've heard sometimes people saying, well, if I'm too Catholic, non-Catholics aren't going to donate to me. But I think so people do. That's great. The money's out there, and the non-Catholics want to donate to Catholics. That's great.
That want to donate to programs that make a difference.
With that as well. Yeah.
That is supported by the Catholic mission.
Yeah, they're not just donating because it has a tag Catholic. There's already enough of those. Do something. Good question. Yes, please.
I'm going to attack my fear of ridicule by asking the most simple question, but we have in our organization YouTube videos, but our communications person keeps saying, well, we're going to put them up when we create our YouTube station or something. I don't know.
Yep.
It feels like we're hanging on to this, all these assets, as he calls them, but why don't we just, how do we get them out there without doing something? It seems from what you're saying is very easy, but for some reason we're being given the impression that it's harder than it is.
I mean, obviously it's very hard for me to have stature because I'm still quite small, but from what I'm seeing in my own personal growth in my own YouTube channel, pretty much the two things that you really want to do, there's three things that you want to do to get if you post. Number one, post regularly, because the way the YouTube algorithm works, and I'm not going to get too much into the details, is number one, Google wants people to stay on their platform, so they want to give high quality content. And one of the ways they see that is, and I see Chris moving, is he going to tell me to stop soon? Okay, I'm good. The number one thing, so the way they rank high quality is, number one, are you consistent? So you have to post regularly. And number two, what they look at is retention in views. Like, so if somebody watches, are they staying more than 2, 3? Like we heard earlier about, like, Facebook is about a minute, but YouTube is longer viewing. 3 minutes, 5 minutes, even 20 minutes to an hour.
So you don't establish a channel, you become a
You grow. You grow.
account. Okay. And
Yeah.
it's not that hard.
If you have a Gmail account, you have a YouTube account.
And then you're with everything. Yeah.
It
You just have to promote it.
And it's little by little. It's the great thing. I don't know. We hear, at least with the compound effect, like little by little something grows. It's little by little you get. Look, I got 2 views. Then I got consistently 10 views. Then I got consistently 50 views. Now I'm getting consistently 100 views. I'm only 11 months in, and I'm one person. And I'm trying to tell Catholic organizations that have like volunteer. I don't have volunteers. I don't have a staff. Like, I would love, and I have a little group of people that I send it to. I'm like, guys, it's Thursday. Push it out. And little by little, like, the only reason I'm in this, speaking with this microphone, I talked about it earlier, is like, I tweeted this guy, direct messaged him. The diocese was email, and a lot of the other people they found me through my website. But little by little, and it's you grow it.
Just a bit, I think it goes back to what you said about people feeling they need to have the whole package
No.
created. I work for a university, so you do have to get lots of approvals and
That's the thing.
big trouble if you don't.
That's why it's nice to be small now. You don't have to do all this stuff.
Yeah, but you can, I think you're encouraging us to think about, you can take little segments and grow them instead of saying, when we've got the whole big cake baked, we'll.
And people are much more interested in the journey. They want to know, okay, even if you have your first video, it's like, okay, this is our first video, we have no idea what we're doing. People are interested in that. People like behind the scenes. Yes, Father?
Given today's weather, this might be seen as kind of raining on a parade, but what about this issue of a possible repeal in the United States by the FCC and by, I won't mention the D word, even though it's my name, by the Trump administration to repeal net neutrality.
Did they repeal it, or did they?
They're thinking of it.
Oh, because I heard they're talking.
Yeah, and that could rain on this whole parade about using social media for small seeming organizations, because what it'll do is it'll create a 2- and 3-tier internet if they repeal it.
I'm not an expert in net neutrality. My understanding is that you'll pay for higher bandwidth. You're already, majority of things are free on the internet anyways. Like, how much more expensive it is, I don't know. I think for the time being, it's there available for you. Look at like Amazon, Google, Apple, all these people. They get millions of hits probably every second. I'm getting 10,000 a month, and I'm really excited about that because I'm moving forward with it. We always, like, my biggest example is Jesus started with one guy, and he had every resource available to him, but he showed, I'm going to start from nothing, and we're going to move this ship forward. So it's baby steps, and who knows what's going to happen, but I'm a believer in, if you plant the seed and you get somebody to water it, God's on your side. Yes?
I have a question about the crowdfunding platforms.
Yeah.
Do you have any opinion?
I guess there's 2 schools to crowdfunding. One, I don't believe in crowdfunding. Like, the only way crowdfunding works is if you, it's like an appeal on like morphine. Like, if you don't go super fast, you're never going to get it. And in order to go fast, you have to have your network in place, and you've got to be pushing your message really quickly to a small group of people and then expand. I think Michael Farrell talked about the new concept of social giving, where you have one person and then their network and they spread it out. It's more or less the same. It's very, very difficult to do because you just need a network. Now, if you have a network of people, of donors, of supporters, and I'm a big believer in building your contact list. If you don't have a contact list, if you have a contact list, keep growing it. And instead of having a crowdfunding, you just have 52 weeks of building relationships with those people and continually getting them on board and making sure that your retention stays up. And instead of focusing on like a campaign of crowdfunding, you focus on, okay, I've got 100 people, I've got 1,000 people, I've got 10,000 people. I'm going to focus on these people. I'm going to make sure that when I have a donor, I don't lose a donor, because the hardest way to grow your donations in your donor database is if you keep losing them. Because for every donor that you lose, you've got to get 2 just to grow. So my big belief is, don't focus on crowdfunding, focus on building your network, building your contact list, building those relationships, getting people on board, calling them up, thanking them, and making sure that you don't lose them and repeat. Yeah? Where's Chris? Am I good? Do you have a question?
You guys speaking tomorrow night at dinner?
Yeah, so I will be speaking again. You're welcome.
Thank you, Chris. Ronnie, can you help Shantini with the presentation? So just remind everybody that there's a session on tonight for those who are awake from 7:30, Ask an Expert. And